Good evening, everyone. TGT Media is the entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people of the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industry. Of course, I'm your host, Kurt. We've taken a couple of weeks off. Actually, we took basically almost a month off because we had the TGT tournament, 5th annual, which celebrated our 5th anniversary. Our last week's guest was unfortunately unable to attend, so we're going on to another amazing and talented person, with a great smile as well. We are joined today from Wacky Monkeys, Joseph Rodriguez. How you doing today, Joseph?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Kurt. And I really appreciate you having me on to the show today, and it's a lot of fun. This is my first interview, so I hope it goes well.
I'll try to go easy on you there, eh? Let's start at the beginning here, because for those that have never been to wackymonkeys.com, which is, by the way, awesome advertising, and that's a really cool glass. I like that.
Oh, thank you. There's something I did with my kids at school. We're making ceramic mugs. And this is my version of a ceramic mug with the ears as the handles. And of course, I had to put the snot there. So kids will not attempt to even try to drink my coffee.
Last thing you need is kids running around with a caffeine high.
Right.
Well, let's take a step back here. Tell us what Wacky Monkeys is all about.
Well, actually, when I attended the School of Visual Arts I started in 1996 to 2000 and 2001, I think 2001. But anyways, one of them, our assignments during our class was, one of the classes that I had was to come up with, what would you make if you made a comic book? What would you do? What would it be? So I come up with a couple of characters, and I basically just parodied Batman, and one of my characters was Nacho. Basically, he looks like Batman, but kind of like the Wile E. Coyote one, where he has the umbrella wings and stuff, and then I called it Grandmaster Detectives. So Grandmaster Detectives was born, and then I started working on it. I've, worked on it for a long time. I mean, this is my sophomore year where I came up with this. And then all throughout my junior and senior years, I've developed the characters and came up with interesting, scenarios for them to be in. And it was basically a superhero bunch. And it's like a parody of the superhero bunch, because I like superhero comics. I like superhero stories. My favorite is Spider-Man, but I just wanted to make fun of it a bit, and that is just something that I'd started doing, and I changed the name later on. I realized that I didn't want it to be Grandmaster Detectives, because after a while I started working on it, and then I pitched the idea to my students. Now I'm an art teacher in Texas, and they were like, "Huh? What?" When I said Grandmaster Detectives, and it was kind of hard to say it. So, I ditched the idea for a while, several years later, and then I come up with Wacky Monkeys. And when I told the kids, instantly they just started laughing just by the name. So I just came up with Wacky Monkeys, and I introduced the monkeys, which I never even thought of before, and now I'm just making up as I go along. Wacky Monkeys is about it's about a family that relocated from Texas to Costa Rica, and the dad, his name is Nacho. He is a retired, like a police officer, and in a small town in Texas. Basically, I'm from a small town in Texas, so it's something I'm familiar with, and I was always interested in cop dramas and stuff. And when I was in New York City, actually, I was an auxiliary police officer, and I had a lot of fun doing that. I did it for like a year almost, and I enjoyed it. It's fun, but then people think that you're a real cop because the auxiliary police officer is basically you're the eyes and ears of the neighborhood, and you report crimes or anything suspicious. You radio it in, and then the real cops show up. But our uniform is exactly like a regular police officer in New York City, and just the only thing that's different is that we're not carrying handguns or tasers or batons or handcuffs, and we're not. Our badge is different. The badge of a police officer in New York City is the shield symbol, and the badge of an auxiliary police officer in New York City is a 6-pointed star. So, or a 5 point, I don't know, I forgot. But anyways, it was a lot of fun doing it. But after playing, they call it toy cops over there. The real cops call it toy cops. But after playing pretend cops for a while, I thought it was time to move on. I got, what I wanted it from it, which was basically little research and development from what is the cop's perspective, of doing things. What are the things that they go through on a daily basis? What are the logistics involved? What are the schedules, routines? What is it that they do as far as chain of command and things like that? So I really wanted to get to know about that, and that's something that interested me, and so that's why this ties into my character Nacho in the comic book, because it's something I'm a little bit familiar with, and when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a police officer, so that's all I really was into, besides drawing, and then I realized that's not something I want to do, because my brother was a police officer in Rockwall, Texas, and he didn't like it. He said he deals with the scum of society and the negative aspects of society and arresting people and chasing down suspects and stuff. And he after a while he quit and he became an art teacher just like me. So
I was going to say, that's a heck of a jump from an auxiliary police officer to an art teacher. I mean, usually those that go into art are, they usually don't have that police background. I mean,
yeah.
staring down the students when they're not doing work, I could understand, but how did you make that transition though?
Well, it wasn't easy. I can tell you that, and I'll give you a couple examples. But from in high school, I didn't want to have anything to do with academics. All I wanted to do was draw, work on my bug. I had a '72 Super Beetle at the time. It's a Volkswagen, and hi, Petey.
Keep going.
And then I had a '72 Super Beetle, and I love working on the bug. So it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed doing things that were very tactile, very hands-on. I love drawing and stuff. Hey, there he is. Wow, Petey, nice to meet you. I've heard you several times on interviews, and now I can finally see you in person. That's great. He's adorable little animal. He's a parakeet, right?
Cockatiel.
Oh, cockatiel. Okay, wow. That's amazing. I love his hair. Cool.
Okay. We're putting you back now.
But as I was saying, once I graduated high school, well, I said, well, I'm going to join the Army. So I joined the Army because my goal was to become a police officer. And I felt that, being in the Army would be a great thing is a good prerequisite to being a police officer. So that's what I did. I joined the Army. I was, in the infantry, and basically as a foot soldier, a grunt. And I enjoyed it. It was hard work, very physical, but it was a lot of fun, I enjoyed that. And then once I got out of the Army, then I went to New York City to study art, because I just couldn't get that art bug out of my mind. I would doodle and stuff. I would paint my friends' helmets. We were mechanized when I was stationed in Germany. That's where I was stationed in Bavaria, Germany. It was a little town called Hohenfels. We were the Op 4 team, Op 4 force, and basically we acted like we were using Soviet tactics against the NATO forces. NATO forces would come and train with us, like the Dutch, the French, the British. Anybody that's involved with the NATO would come to our base, our post, and then would train with us, and they would be called the Blue 4 team, which is the NATO forces, and then we would be the Op 4, which means it's like short for opposing force. Op 4 is using Soviet tactics and Soviet weapons and vehicles and stuff, and so we were mechanized at that time, and that means I was in an armored personnel carrier. I was a driver, so it was a lot of fun. That took all the marching away so I didn't have to march anymore. I was mechanized. I had a armored personnel carrier to drive. It was a lot of fun. But like I was saying, once I was finished with the Army, then I moved to New York. It was a real tug of war for me throughout these years that I wanted to do art, but I also wanted to be a police officer. So I don't know. I mean, it was something I wanted to investigate a little bit further. I wanted to experience some things. So what I did was when I enrolled into the School of Visual Arts in New York City. It's on 23rd and Lexington. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. But at the same time, I became an auxiliary police officer, New York City police officer. So that was a good experience. Several years, like a year of auxiliary police officer, I did that. And I realized that's not something I'm interested in doing. My heart wasn't into it. So, I veered more towards the creative, artistic side, and I got away from the military police side.
Well, speaking of arts, your art side now, focusing strictly on that, let's focus on your art style, because your art style, from what I've seen, for me, it reminded me of the old Mad magazines. I mean, just the Alfred E. Newman and that style, the Garbage Pail Kids, stuff like that, back in the early, yeah, hey.
I mean, you're pulling things right out of my head, because I love Garbage Pail Kids stickers. Okay, believe it or not, I'm afraid to admit it, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be frank with you. When I was a kid and the Cabbage Patch Kids came out, I really wanted a Cabbage Patch Kid, but I realized that only girls bought them, and I would be a sissy if I got a Cabbage Patch Kid. But then I discovered Garbage Pail Kid stickers. And that was like, wow, this is just even better. I don't have to carry a doll around. By the way, I did have a ventriloquist dummy. That was my little baby. I was always talking on the string and stuff.
It's because that just immediately was like, okay, we're talking early to mid 80s influence when it comes to art style, at least from what I can see. Right. And you brought that into Wacky Monkeys as well, which is an interesting transition, because a lot of art styles nowadays, at least a lot of other comic people in the industry, are very clean, very either Americanized or manga combinations, or one or the other. But your style is very free flowing. You can do anything with it, and you still have enough detail. More than enough detail, especially with the shades that you have, that really allow the art to just kind of pop off that page there.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, when I was first starting drawing it, if you look on my first few pages, it was just very basic. I tried to fit into that mode. I tried to restrain myself, and I'm like, I don't know, this is not the way it's supposed to do it. Okay, look. Let me back up a little bit. I was turning 40 years old, and I thought to myself, wow, I'm almost 40. I'm a teacher, art teacher, and I enjoy it. I love my students so much. I enjoy interact. It's just so much fun, and I really enjoy teaching at where I am. But and I'm an elementary art teacher, by the way. But I said, I can't get rid of this the art bug that I have in me that I want to do comics. I want to do something. I'm like, I gotta do something. I'm almost 40. This is like my life is wasting away. I don't know what to do. I gotta be known for something. I want to do something with my life. So I thought, well, let me just start drawing something. And as I was drawing, I'm like, well, it's not. I don't know. I don't see this too much, and people aren't into it. I don't know. I was very self-conscious and not very confident in my work at that time. And this was like almost a year ago. So I've been at this since November of last year, I believe, where I started drawing, and then I finally posted on December, and then so now it's I'm getting there, but it's a slow process. But I really loved it. I loved Mad Magazine as a kid. That was magazine store. In the supermarket when my mom's shopping and stuff, I would go. My God, I just fell in love with Mad Magazine, Crack Magazine, those cartoons. It was an old school. I don't. It's not even. I don't think it's live anymore. But it's called Cartoons, and it was about cars, and that's what really got me into cars and stuff. And it had this really cool artwork with artists that just focused on drawing these amazing cars, like Ed Big Daddy Roth, that type of style. I love that. And then I fell in love with Mad Magazine. My main influence was Mort Drucker. I really enjoyed watching, looking at Mort Drucker's art. I didn't even have to read anything. Just looking at his artwork, I was just, wow. I mean, it just blew my mind. He was the funniest thing. I just remember the simplest things would make me laugh so loud, like when I was a kid, like little bitty. And it was just amazing. I really enjoyed it. And not only him, but Sergio Aragonos, he did things on the borders, which was just so amazing. I would flip through. I wouldn't even look at the content. I would just look at the borders to see if Sergio was drawing something on there. And his things, his artwork that with no words, that was just amazing. Like he could communicate so much without any speech or anything like that. Just with very basic things. And the Spy versus Spy. I also love Jack Davis's artwork and Al Jaffe, the fold-in things in the back. So I mean, it's amazing how you just pulled that Mad Magazine thing right out of my mind. Other influences that I really loved as a kid, like when I first, the first comic book I got was a Daredevil comic book, and I'm not sure what the artist, but I'm not sure if it's Buscema, John Buscema at the time, but it could have been. But anyways, that like wow, there's a whole world. I didn't know how to read at the time, but when I saw the images and next to each other juxtaposed, it's like wow, I could make a whole movie out of in my mind, and the sounds would come alive to me, and all the I didn't even have to read, but eventually later I would want to know what they're talking about. I would want to know what they're reading. So Mad Magazine, the Daredevil one, and then of course Cracked and Cartoons magazines, and then so I just got more into comic books, Archie comics, Will Eisner. I love the spirit. I was just so into it. It was so like I can actually feel everything he drew things, and I could feel the textures. I could feel things that he would draw. And then, of course, I discovered and Jack Ralph Coles. He did Plastic Man back in the '40s, and he was he invented Jack Ralph. He invented Plastic Man. I was just like amazed by his work, and it was just blown away by everything he did. And You know, later on, as in the '80s and stuff, I like the Tick, and of course Ralph Snart. You know, Mark Hansen is a big influence on me as well. The way he just pulls, he just pulls the characters. Uh, he just pulls their eyes out, and he pulls their tongues, and their limbs are going far away, you know, straight into the camera, like that. And I mean, it's just really, this is like extreme perspective. It just really elastic, you know. And I'm just so amazed by it, and I'm like, wow, I gotta try this. But I guess I don't know. I forgot the question you asked, but to answer your question, yeah, those are some of the things that have influenced me, and you know, and from my childhood, the Garbage Pail stickers and the Garbage Pail Kids and things like that, and the wacky packages, stickers. Those are like so funny, and I think the wacky was really something. Wacky races, when you know, cartoons, a big influence. Tex Avery and Hanna Barbera, the Tom and Jerry cartoons. I also loved the other
Looney
cartoons.
Tunes,
I'm sorry.
Looney Tunes, and all that.
Right, the Looney Tunes, you know, the Wile E. Coyote, Bugs Bunny, even Woody Woodpecker. It was a lot of fun. I just, I really loved seeing the world through the way that the cartoons was depicted. Like everything was clean, like you know, everything was perfectly done, and you could do things that is completely impossible to do in real life. And I don't know, it just really brought me to it. I really enjoyed it so much.
You know, obviously you're teaching a younger generation now. You know, and you sound like you're having a blast with it personally. I mean, you got all these young minds that you're molding with art, because, you know, back in my, you know, time, and when I was a kid, we did basic painting and stuff like that, but we didn't have the technology that we have access to today. How are you taking what technology you have access, you and your school have access to, and allowing the kids to be more creative?
Well, that's a good question. That's wow, that's cool. But let's see. I'll be honest with you. I was scared to death. I was in my sophomore year. I believe it was 1997, 1988. I don't know. But those were kind of blurry areas for me. New York City, wow. You know, I'm a small town Texas guy, and I'm in the big city, and there's so much that I had to look around and absorb. And, you know, it's just, I met so many different people from so many different places, and I wasn't sure, like, you know, who I was. I'm like, wow. Basically, I was like so amazed by everything else that I was so minuscule. I was like a grain of sand, and it was just like wide eyes open in New York City, and that was like something that I just will never ever forget. It was just an amazing experience. I lived there for 8 years, and I loved every minute of it. Well, almost every minute of it. But as I said, you know, I was scared to death of computers. I was scared to death, you know, anything related to that, because, you know, I'm an old school guy. I like drawing on pen and paper, you know, paper, pen, pencil. I love that feel, you know, I love that feel I just can't get away from it. I tried, you know, doing, you know, different things recently on the internet with the Wacom tablet. I have, you know, a big giant tablet that I got, and that's great for coloring. I love that for coloring. That's just amazing, and I can't do without it. But I tried drawing on it at first, and I no, it's not for me. But anyways, as I said, you know, I didn't get into the internet, or I didn't even have a computer until I was in my junior year of college. So that was a big shock to me, like trying to acclimate to technology. And it was like saying, wow, at first I was like, oh my goodness, computers are going to take over my job because now you can do anything on the computer, and you can even create artworks on the computer, and I'll be eliminated. So why am I paying all this money in college for? This school costs fortune. So of course I was going to be. I was scared, and I was kind of ignorant. I didn't know what the computer or the internet would bring me, and um, but little by little, I adapted, I adjusted, and but still, I would still hold out on anti-computer and anti-internet and stuff, and I didn't even have a MySpace account or anything like that. But I would look at it, but I would like, nah, I'm not gonna join. But I would look at my friends' MySpace, and they had all these fun stuff and stuff, things like that. But finally, when I started drawing the Grandmaster Detectives, which is now called Wacky Monkeys, when I first started drawing them, I'm like, no, no, no. I read a web. Wait, let me see. I read this book. I read this book, and I'm like, no, that's not for me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do old school. I like my old way. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to adapt. I'm not going to get with. I don't like it. So basically, it was kind of like in the denial stage, and I did a Grandmaster Detectives comic, and I did it all. I did a mini comic of it, and I went to the in Texas. There's a Staple. It's called Staple. It's in Austin, Texas. It's a comic convention. So I went there with my wife, and we didn't have kids at the time. So and then I made that, and I passed them out, and it was a lot of fun. But I'm like, wait a minute, I'm only reaching a few people at this convention with mini comics, and it took me a year or two after that to realize it. I'm like, why don't I put it on the internet? I mean, people all over the world can look at it. So I was kind of like, wow, I'm so stupid. I'm like, I'm reading people like this, and here's another one I like. Here's like this one. Let's see. It's by Stephen Withrow and John Barber. They have really good stuff on there. I really like it. It's called Webcomics. I got it on Amazon.com. It was suggested after I bought this one, of course. And then I got another one, but I don't know where it is. I think it's shelved somewhere. But as I was saying, I'm like, wow, I gotta get with these times. I gotta adapt. I can't be so afraid of the internet. I can't be so afraid of technology. I gotta use it as a tool. And basically, that's what I did. Is I realized that the internet and computers are a tool. That's awesome. I got that one too. That's actually it's up here on my shelf. You should see my shelf. It's like full of books and stuff. But, yeah, that's awesome. That's one of my beginning ones. Because I like drawing. It's really cool the way the action line goes through the figure in the artwork in that book that you showed, which is awesome. And that's how I basically learned from there how to draw figures in more of fluid motion. Of course, sometimes I'm not. I don't, it doesn't come across in execution, but I'm still learning, and I'm willing to keep trying. So I'm having a lot of fun, and it's fun to do this. But as I said, finally I decided, I gotta get with the times. The computer is a tool; it's not going to replace me. It's something I can use to draw my comics, draw my cartoons, put my artwork out there. Even before computers, people had to paint or color the comic book with Dr. Martin watercolors or something. I don't know what it's called, but that's old school. And then Zipatones and stuff. I mean, uh, I love the Zipatone look because it's so old looking and it's like that pixelated. It's very endearing to me and it just really brings me back. It's very nostalgic. But I really love how I can put the colors on my comic book using the computer. So that is the technology that I really embrace now, and I've learned what I could do, what I like, and what I don't like about using the computer. And those are some of the things I like. Now, as far as teaching it to my kids in class, I have kindergarten, first, second, third, and fourth. Those are the students that I have in my classroom. I'm elementary art teacher, so I do introduce a little bit of that in my class, but in our school we don't have computers for everybody, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to have everybody working on computers. But I do show them what is possible, what they can do, because I have a lot of kids that are really interested in art. They're not good with academics. I was not good with academics. I was like a C student, and not because I was stupid. I was just slow. I think I'm smart, but I'm very slow, and it just takes time for me to get it. Somebody could tell a joke, and then everybody would be laughing. I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'll start laughing. But I don't think slow is stupid. So I don't know. I'm from Texas. Who knows?
At least this is in Oklahoma.
What? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
At least it is in Oklahoma.
Right.
I had a guy I used to work with who's from Oklahoma, so we used to joke back and forth about that. Nothing against the people in Oklahoma; they're awesome. But
yeah.
you have kindergarten to grade 4. Wow, that's a lot of kids, a lot of huge age range as well. I think, isn't this the age, especially if they're into art, especially if they want to really showcase their talent, or at least start their talent. I mean, heck, if I was in kindergarten and I learned how to draw a character, just a simple comic character, my life might have been entirely different than, what I got into. Are you getting these kids to kind of say, hey, here's what you can do with a circle. Here's what you can do taking that circle, attaching it to this. I mean, you have so much to work with that it would be just amazing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're very malleable at this stage, and of course you can influence them in one way or another. I try to introduce a lot of things, like we do. We do clay a lot. I even start with kinder. Here's one of my doggies that I did, and it comes with a little. But anyways, we do clay projects with kids, and it brings that tactile sensation to them. Whereas when they're in the regular classroom, they're just it's just writing and it's reading, math. To me that's kind of boring. I love science. I love reading. I do love reading, but I really didn't get into it until I was in high school and college. So for me, it wasn't something that I could gravitate towards when I in my younger years. I'm very visual and very tactile person. So that's something I like to bring out in those kids. I like to bring out that tactile kinesthetic sensation from them, because in classroom they're told, okay, sit down, don't move, don't talk, write, read, stop moving around. And a lot of kids, kids aren't like that. And coming from a public school education background, I work in public schools, so I see things that I do not agree with, and things that I'm completely against, and I feel like I'm a cog in the machine of something I don't agree with. Something like they reduce the recess time. I mean, come on, the kids need recess. They need to run around. They need to jump. So basically, I allow a lot of freedom in my classroom. They can get up and get things, throw things away if they need to. Get supplies. I don't pass supplies out. They get it themselves. And I have a class of like 32 and 34 kids. Sometimes I'm lucky if I have like 20 kids. I'm like, wow, a godsend. I could work one-on-one more, with these students, because the less students I have, the more I could work with that particular student in my class. And basically, I have the students that come into my classroom. They visit me 1 hour every week. So for that hour, I really try to pack a lot of information in them. I pack a lot of fun into them. I do magic tricks and stuff, and I get these. I just get them riled up. Basically, sometimes a teacher from another, there's another art teacher in our school, and there's a music teacher and the counselors down the hall. But sometimes they'll peek their head in and they're like, "What's all this racket?" I'm like, "Nothing. The kids are just having fun." And I'm like, they think there's like an explosion or something. But these kids need something like that. They need to get out and to get up and do things and not be restricted, not be restrained. And I'm so lucky. I'm blessed that I do have like an art yard. Okay, I have a whole wall of north light facing windows. So the whole wall is. They designed the school pretty good. So they gave my art room a wall of north light, and then there's a door right out. And then of course we got a art yard where I take my students out and we do sketching outside and stuff in the grass and stuff. I haven't done that lately, but I did it in the past and I enjoyed it. It's just the only thing that I didn't like about it was that the fact that kids would cry and say, "Oh, Mr. Rodriguez, I want to go sharpen my pencil," or I need to drink water, or I need to use the restroom. So there's all these logistical things that you have to deal with when it comes to kids and teaching art. And that's something that I've learned to work with and see what works and what doesn't work. And another cool thing about the art yard is there's a garden there. And we grow vegetables, and the kids get to see the vegetables. Like the last 5 minutes of class or so, once we put everything away, I use that as an incentive. I say, "Look, if you do a great job putting things away, if you don't hurt each other or kill each other doing it, then you could, we could have 5 minutes to go outside, look at the garden. We could run around and play and stuff, jump, holler, whatever you want to do, outside." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're going to do it." So they get their stuff together. They put the supplies away. They put their, paints or brushes, water, the cups, everything that we use, whatever it is that we're doing at the time. They put things away, and they make sure everything is cleaned up. And once they're seated properly, I dismiss them by tables, and then we go outside and have a good time. So basically, that's how I teach my kids about how to ease up off the academics so much. They come into my class, they relax. I introduce some technology to them, and I show them what is possible with the computer. I show them what they can do, what they can accomplish with it. And the cool thing is that we have iPads at school with a whole cart, maybe like 35 iPads on a cart. Yeah, and everything is like a nice card. It's built in where they plug it in, they charge it, and it's everything is updated. And then they unplug it to give the iPads to the kids, and then they do projects with them. But this is on the academic side, and I always tell them, because they use those iPad carts for academic purposes. Because of course the testing is a big deal. It's ridiculous. But I can understand where it's coming from. But so that really doesn't give me the opportunity to use the iPads. But I do tell them, and I explain to them. I even show them that what is possible, with computers, with technology, that and they embrace it. They grew up. My 2-year-old daughter, she knows how to work the iPad. She swipes her fingers across. She plays the Minion Run. It's like that Temple Run, but Minions from Despicable Me. and she loves it. I think she's even better than I am. And so I just think these kids have it made, with so much.
Oh, good stuff. When it comes down to it, you've obviously you're successful in what you're doing. You're having a blast doing what you're doing, not only as a webcomic creator, but as a teacher. Molding these impressionable young minds that are under your care. And congratulations on that.
Petey gave me a nod. That's great. Thank you, Petey.
Is there anything that I haven't been able to bring up that you? I'm going to leave this all in just for you, just for the kids that get to watch this.
Thank you. Yeah,
because
I'm gonna put this on my website, and they love visiting my site, and I even show them my latest stuff. And what's fun is I show them the process. I show them the paper I use, the pencils I use. Basically, I use a regular number 2 pencil, and I just draw it out. I sketch some things. I do a lot of erasing, so I use a Bristol, smooth Bristol, because by the time I finish with it, it's all rough with all the erasing and stuff. And so, anyways, I show them the pencil work. Then I show them what I use to ink with it, and I ink it, and I show it to them, and then I show them on the internet because I post pencils one week, then I post the inks the next week, and then of course I post the colors the next week after that. So it takes me 3 weeks just to do one page, which is just, it's sad, I know, but I mean, I'm so inspired by so many amazing webcomic artists that are out there. I enjoy
like who?
Looking at, but
like who?
Let's see. I like Zombie Boy comics by Mark Stokes, and I also like The Tasmanians by Tony McGurk. I mean, these are guys that I just enjoy reading, enjoy learning about, and of course, Adanac City by George Ford, and Bug Pudding by JP, and so there's a lot of fun artists. I'm leaving a whole lot out, and but there's so many that I've discovered, and of course Vince Dorsey's Untold Tales of Bigfoot. He's an amazing artist, and every time I see his artwork, I'm like, wow, I gotta get that good. I mean, it's just amazing. Ben Toll, he does Oyster Wars, and it's just amazing the color choices he uses, and I'm like, wow, I'm kind of embarrassed. Well, I don't know. My style is a little bit different, but when I see other people's artworks, I'm like, I'm not that. It's not. I don't know. I just don't feel like I fit in. So it's kind of different. It's weird. I don't know.
I think when it comes to individuality, it's especially when it comes to the comic community itself. Everyone has something that they bring to the table. They've honed their style. They've set up their style. They've worked their craft to something that they're happy with.
Right,
the fact that your style is very 80s based, and I'll just leave it at that. It's 80s based. It's very unique. I mean, we're talking 30 years later, and people that are our generation, even though you're still older than me, can still see and relate to this. The fact that Mad Magazine is one of your main influences. People that are our generation know that. They recognize it. It's instantly recognizable. And in essence, it's an homage to that particular style. So the fact that you may not feel like you fit into the traditional sense of what you are seeing now doesn't mean that you're not still part of it.
Right, yeah.
You're here, just keep at it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's what amazing thing is that I've had an abundance of support, and it's really helped me. It encourages me, like when I see people come and comment on my site, to me that's gold. Like I love to get people's comments, and when somebody comments on my site, I feel like, wow, they took their time out from the day to look at my comic book on the internet, and read it and even make a comment on it. Because a lot of people just look at it and don't comment, which is fine. I appreciate just looking, but the people that comment is just, wow, to me that's like gold, because they could, they can go on Facebook, they can go on, they can watch TV. There's movies, there's video games. They could go on other websites that they like that are even better than mine. So, I mean, I'm humbled and honored that they would actually go and make a comment on my site. So I make a point to always reply to every comment that comes to my website. So I just think that that's something that that I feel that is just very sincere from their point of view to that they would comment on my site, and it really encourages me to continue. I'm getting more confident as time goes on with my coloring, with my line art, and also with with pencil work, and I'm trying to get like to a zone where I could be able to communicate a story well without words, and that's what I try to do from the beginning. And as I progress, I'm only on page 15, but as I'm progressing, I'm introducing a little bit more dialogue. But I wanted to get that foundation in where I could communicate the story with just using pictures. So
and you're doing a good job. So don't worry about it. Like you said, it takes time. I hate to say it, but that ends this episode here. But I do want to thank you so much, Joseph, for taking the time to be interviewed. And I love the fact that you always have a smile on your face. You always have passion, and you enjoy what you're doing. And that you got to keep that up when it comes to years and years down the road. And I'd love to see. I want to see Wacky Monkeys. I want to see that in a book. I want to see that. On a shelf somewhere, or at a convention, or something like that. And with your continued hard work, being not only an art teacher for the public school system, but also as a comic and webcomic creator, I think you're going to go very far.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Kurt, and I really do. Thank you so much for having me on this show. This is my first interview, and I was real nervous, but I feel it worked out well, and I didn't stumble too much. And I enjoy meeting Petey for the first time. That's great. I really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to all the readers I have, the people that came into my website. I want to thank you to coming and commenting and actually looking at my stuff and giving me positive encouragement. I really appreciate. I love it. Thank you so much. And if you haven't visited my website, it's wackymonkeys.com, and you can follow me on Twitter also. I'm not on Facebook, but Twitter a lot.
What's the Twitter?
Oh, it's Wacky Monkeys.
Okay.
I think Twitter/Wacky Monkeys, I believe.
Awesome. Good stuff. You got to get on the Facebooks as well. It's not a MySpace type thing. It's
right. I know. I'm just I'm easing into it because there's so much going on, and I definitely want to get into I started a page, but I have not published it yet.
Okay.
There's nothing on it. It's just I have the name, and that's basically it.
You're working towards it.
Right. I am definitely working towards it. Thanks so much, Kurt. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. That ends this episode of TGT Media, and let me just see who that I have coming up. I know we have another episode, so, it's not like we're not busy. I just don't have it on my calendar here. But it's in my email somewhere. But tune in next week for of course, another wonderful interview and with another great guest. I'm not sure if it's an artist or a comic person, but whoever comes on here has something interesting to say as well. When it comes down to it, you can always, of course, see us on tgtmedia.com. You can, of course, catch us on the iTunes. All of these video interviews also have the audio component as well. iTunes.com. Search for TGT Media. you're going to get all 300, 400, however many interviews I have over 600 in total. Just go there, download them all, and it'll make me smile as well. You know, you're going to have easily hundreds of hours of content. So if you're an artist, if you're a creator, if you want something to play in the background, that's what TGT is for these amazing, great, talented people that we've had on, and we've just added one more to the show. So there you go.
Thank you. I appreciate it.